In this impactful video, President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso shares a powerful and inspiring message with the African Union and the youth of Africa. To all the young people who have come from Africa to accompany the Burkinabe youth, welcome to the country of honest men. I will pay a vibrant tribute to our clairvoyant defense and security forces and our VDP clairvoyants who work day and night so that Burkina Faso is and stands up. I hope that we take a minute to pray for those who are on the ground and also for the repose of the souls of those who fell for our country. I thank you. Let us give thanks to God who has allowed us to meet here today on the occasion of the celebration of the International Day of Healthy Youth. I say it very often because human beings often forget God when they have no problems, when they are happy. But when worries come, that is when we remember God. Give thanks every day for the breath of life and for health. Youth of Burkina, youth of Africa, youth, this phase of life where we have enough strength, enough energy. As the Slamer who has just passed paraphrased, youth is the time when we do not have enough time. We must take advantage of the time given to us, use the energy necessary to achieve our goals, to change the world, change our world, change the world of others positively. Children wish to grow up to be young, the elderly wish to become young again. Everyone wants to be young. Youth is a blessing, so take advantage of youth to do useful work. That is why when I see in the chosen theme, the first two words challenge us, integration and security. Africa has many challenges, and we must ask ourselves questions. Is youth an asset or a handicap for the development of nations? The answer is simple and unequivocal, and you know that most developed countries have an aging population. Currently, many countries have launched programs to rejuvenate their population. Africa is lucky to have a very young population, but why is Africa not developed? We should therefore look into the question of understanding why Africa has a young population and is not developed, while the countries that call themselves developed are seeking to rejuvenate their population. We must therefore manage to transform our youth into a real asset and an engine of development for our continent. To do this, we need integration, we need security for development, we need to unite. Of course, you will hear about the African Union. Yes, it exists, but what is the effect of the African Union in reality? We will not be able to talk about integration in the theme without talking about the African Union because it is this organization that should unite us, create real integration. But we regret to see these wars that persist on the African continent, killing millions of young people, and that this organization, which has heads of state provided with an army, cannot organize to support certain countries. The Union is not just a word. The Union is a symbol, and we young people should learn from this situation to unite to make integration a reality. I was unpleasantly surprised when Ethiopia, which hosts the headquarters of the African Union, was experiencing a conflict. When I saw the Prime Minister get in a TR and announce the closure of the university in Addis Ababa to face the threat, I did not see the action of the African Union to protect these headquarters. The Western states, for the most part, seeing Addis Ababa fall, packed up and left. Ethiopia has fought, found an internal solution, and lives more or less in peace today. The children of Congo have been dying for years, and several other conflicts, such as Sudan, exist on the continent. We would have liked to see the African Union generate the forces and all the strategies necessary to support these states so that they can find peace. We will not even talk about ourselves here in the Sahel. For almost 10 years, the Sahel has been the scene of international terrorism, but we do not see any support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem. Worse, a few days ago, a country outside Africa openly announced that it had supported and participated in a cowardly, terrorist, and barbaric attack against forces of our confederation in Tinzaouaten. The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference. The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference of a state outside Africa in the internal affairs of our states. This rant, I would like them to hear and therefore come out of their silence and take action so that the youth can believe in the African Union.
L'union n'est pas juste un mot, L'union, c'est un symbole.
We must unite.
Nous, jeunes,
We must unite, and the only way to unite is to talk to each other, to understand each other, and to be able to lay the foundations of this unity. And young people, let me tell you that to unite, there are three words, three great vices that must be banished from our behavior and our life. I am talking about cowardice, betrayal, and incompetence. Music, we must banish these three words from our way of life. I will explain to you why. Cowardice covers many vices. A coward is always afraid, and when we are afraid, we become a slave. We bend, we lick the beast. We were not cowards, and if we are cowards, our children will ask us questions. Imagine that in Burkina, we refused to fight and we agreed to submit, to live in slavery. Tomorrow, our children will grow up, and they will ask themselves questions. Were our parents cowards to leave us in slavery? Whether we are alive or dead, we will feel it. The coward is afraid, and the imperialists have understood. They try to scare the leaders so that you are cowards, because when you are a coward, all other vices can be born. We do everything so that we are afraid. They come to our palaces, they threaten us directly or with veiled threats. Of course, we respond as we should. They try to make us, applause, understand. They take examples each time. They will tell us, you know, Thomas Sankara tried to do it like this, but where is he? Dead. The Haitian president, he tried to do it like this, where is he? Dead. Gaddafi tried it like this, where is he? Dead. These are veiled words to scare us. And worse, we also often see certain young people trying to follow suit in another way. We can hear them say, such a person has raised their voice, so they have been silenced. Such a person has raised their voice, so they are in prison. All that to try to scare us so that we become cowards. But I think they didn't understand something.
cette ingérence. L'Union africaine n'a piqué aucun mot pour condamner cette ingérence d'un État extérieur à l'Afrique dans les affaires internes de nos États.
When we say, the fatherland or death, we will win, it's not just a phrase. It's not just a phrase. It makes perfect sense. We are not afraid, and we will never be afraid. They have surely scared many African heads of state. You see, often when we speak out, when we have the opportunity to be in certain situations abroad, we make remarks to challenge African heads of state so that we wake up, take care of our youth, to be able to start our development. We are often misunderstood. Some publicly dismiss our remarks because they feel singled out. But I can assure you, youth, that when we find ourselves in the corridors, these same heads of state tell us, you are on the right track. This is what must be done so that Africa can get out. So we ask them questions to know why they don't do as we do, why they don't accompany us. Some tell us that they have been bound, some tell us that they cannot. Dear elders, dear African heads of state, from the top of this platform, I would like to say that the African peoples are the most peaceful peoples. When you recognize a wrong, you must tell the people. We are not afraid tomorrow to go out and tell the people, we apologize.
Et lorsqu'on a peur, on devient un esclave. On se plie, on lèche les bottes.
We had been compromised. We have a lot of pain that we have been squeezed by several things, and we ask for forgiveness, and we return to the right path. We must start to really work for the independence of our states and our emancipation. And I think that it is possible. If we remain in this posture of fear, we will be cowards, and history will judge us. We will be asked questions, our grandchildren will ask questions. We are writing history. There is no room for cowardice. If our ancestors had been cowards, we would not be here. Remember, I will give you an example of the Bamalik people, the Bassa people. I want to talk about Cameroonians, the union of the populations of Cameroon, who since the 50s began an implacable struggle against the colonists. They were massacred. The French colonial armies at the time poured in infantry battalions, tanks, helicopters, wiped out villages. The most inhuman tortures took place during this period. You can do research on what they call the swing or the baka. Hundreds of thousands of populations were decimated in Africa because they dared to ask the colonists to leave their land. It resulted in a civil war that lasted several years. People dared to confront the imperialists with bare hands so that we are here. There is no reason why we cannot confront the imperialists so that future generations can live. There are many examples across Africa of courageous men who refused to be cowards, who fought, who faced. Well, let's be worthy of these people. We are their descendants, and let's be worthy of them. A coward cannot be worthy. Let's not be cowardly African youth, because a coward is always a traitor. They will try to scare us so that we are cowards, and if we are cowards, we will betray. We must banish betrayal from our habits. Africans were betrayed so that the slave trade could succeed in Africa. It is because Africans were betrayed that colonization was able to hold in Africa. Let's question history, and we will see it. Music, Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba, was betrayed because he dared to stand up. These same Belgian televisions came to Congo, held out a few baubles to individuals in Congo for an interview to please their population. And you were able to follow that. Lumumba bothers us, he is dead, we are happy. It is treachery. Many other heroes have fallen so that we are here today, and it is a technique of imperialism to scare others by carrying out actions to create terror. It did not start today.
Lorsqu'on a l'occasion d'être dans certaines situations à l'extérieur, nous tenons souvent des propos pour interpeller les chefs d'État africains.
I will take the example of a warrior who fought, Victor Bayak Botha. Read, and you will understand. He is from a family of chiefs, not from the chieftaincy given by the colon. He was a worthy child. He studied in Senegal, I believe. He came to Guinea as a doctor, and when the RDA was created, he joined the Ivory Coast to lead the fight against the imperialists, against the invaders, against the colon. He tried to organize the Ivorian society. Everywhere, people began to carry the voice. There was, in his time, a General Petu who massacred the Ivorian population so that this spirit of freedom could never germinate. He continued his fight alongside Félix Houphouët-Boigny. They fought, but the most virulent was Victor Bayak Botha. He represented a threat to the imperialists. What did they do? Besides massacring the people who demonstrated, one evening, they killed him in an atrocious manner next to Boaful. A few hours later, when the people of Dimbokro heard of the assassination, they marched, they demonstrated, and they were massacred by the colonial army. History is stubborn, the facts are there. After his death, which scared Félix Houphouët-Boigny, they called him and said, "If you continue the fight, you will know the same fate." He was afraid and allied himself with imperialism. He was appointed minister in France, and later he came to take the reins of the Ivory Coast. They used him to eliminate many other people who dared to raise their voices. And I think that Thomas Sankara is a beautiful music example. If you are afraid, you will be cowardly, and you will be traitors. Never be afraid. The fight must continue. There are many other examples throughout the world, and there is this phenomenon that they have also used for a long time and continue to use. You see, some individuals, for example, ended up in other countries and created a so-called parallel government to the government of Mali. You have heard this story. It is only a technique that existed in time. I will take the example of Ahmed Chalabi in Iraq. This prophet of mathematics, who was even in the Iraqi government, was recovered by the imperialists. He formed this semblance of a parallel government to Iraq in the United States, and he was used to be the sacrificial lamb. It was to him that they told to publicly declare that Saddam Hussein developed weapons of mass destruction, and he did it. They used him, and this Chalabi was used to kill millions of children in Iraq and destroy Iraq. And you know what was the fate of Chalabi? One evening, after an interview, in which he even said that he knows that the CIA is on his back, a few hours later, he was found dead in his bed, dead of a heart attack. If you betray, you will have macabre ends. Applause, imperialism has no friends. Imperialism uses you, and when it finishes using you, it does with you what it wants. Follow my gaze, you understand what I am talking about. It has always been like that. The very vice that I invite you to get rid of is incompetence. I come back again to the word of the slam poet that walked on my tongue. Incompetence. You will understand what it is about. Incompetence is a very dangerous phenomenon that they have used to destroy African society. In our administrations, there are many incompetents. Let us recognize it. The incompetents have a lot of room next to imperialism because the incompetents can weigh down the development of a country. The incompetents can make you doubt yourself. The incompetents like the easy way out. The incompetents like everything for themselves. The incompetent do not like those who are competent. They do not like those who innovate, those who seek. The incompetent are dangerous when and you are enlightened.
C'est parce que des Africains ont été traites que la colonisation a pu tenir en Afrique. Interrogeons l'histoire, nous le verrons. Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba.
The incompetent does not like you when you want to innovate. The incompetent does not like you. Incompetence is recognizing the one who is competent, and he will fight him until his last breath because he is afraid of the one who is competent. Seek knowledge, and work. Work hard to be competent. Banish incompetence because, through the distractions that they want us to adopt, we become incompetent. I will give you an example. Social networks are the places where information is published today. People get information through the internet and many things. A young person who publishes on social networks an article about his farm, an agricultural project, or a scientific project, I am young, I know the terms, he may not have 1,000 views. But a young person who publishes on trivialities, what I call nonsense, he has millions of views. Just like the young slam poet said, they want to make you lose time in trivialities. Become aware. Let's take an interest in work and seek knowledge. Let's seek competence. To have fun is good, but we must work first before music, having fun. Seek knowledge, otherwise, you will waste time doing nothing. Youth is the time, it is the period when we must exploit our time well. The imperialists know it, that's why they will multiply everything that is a distraction. They will multiply everything that is an event that can distract you from work so that you are incompetent. And at this moment, when you are asleep, we choose the incompetent to lead everything that is an important structure, and you have no choice but to comply. Let's not be incompetent. Let's seek knowledge. The incompetent often hide behind words. They use the terms democracy and freedom without realizing what it is about. Comrade, democracy is a state of mind, as much as youth is a state of mind. It's supposedly democratic, but look at the world. How can we want to impose democracy by killing millions of people? It's dictatorship. That's not democracy. It's not imposed. Those who call themselves Democrats, but look, we've seen scenes where people were prevented from entering assemblies.
Lorsque les populations de Dimbokro ont entendu l'assassinat, ils ont marché, ils ont manifesté.
We've seen scenes where forces landed in assemblies to force deputies to adopt texts. We've seen scenes more terrible than that, where people kill their demonstrators, but they call themselves Democrats. And we are, therefore, called purists. If this is democracy, I repeat, we do not want this democracy. And when you often see the incompetents, they don't try to understand the meaning of the word democracy in reality. They just cling to the definition that imperialism gave them, and they start talking about democracy without really knowing the basis of it. It's incompetence.
Et je pense que Thomas Sankara est un bel exemple.
We must seek to know, to have the knowledge. Look at the world to redefine democracy as we want it in Africa. Incompetence hides behind freedoms. Remember one thing, there is no such thing as individual freedom. It is a fact. Do you really think that everyone is free? Freedom is collective. As long as we live in a society with rules, freedom is collective. Because if you do not respect the rules, you cannot live in society. If you are free to speak as you want, the other is also free to answer you as he wants. It will be, applause, disorder. If you are free to drive in the street and pass the red light as you want, the other is also free to pass and hit you. You understand that if individual freedom takes over, we are in a society of disorder. That is why there are rules in society, and the rules everyone must respect. And here we are talking about collective freedom. So, some give themselves the right to talk about their individual freedom, but not taking into account others. I think that is also part of the incompetence, because he does not seek to understand.
Ils l'ont utilisé, et cet alibi a été utilisé pour tuer des
He arrogates to himself the rights that perhaps the states have given them to serve to do everything for them by neglecting the freedom of others. No, freedom is collective. Before taking an action, we think of the freedom of others, and we must not transcend the freedom of others. So that means that we must have reserve. And once we have reserve, individual freedom does not exist. Freedom is collective, and we must have this culture of collective freedom.
C'est ainsi.
So, let us seek knowledge, let us read, let us question history. Do not read the history that they wrote in their favor. Seek knowledge through several sources, and you will understand in the history who fought for Africa how we must.
Le troisième vice que je vous invite à vous départir.
We will fight to continue this struggle of our predecessors, and I will not end my remarks without making a rant again about the communication aspect. As I say, it is the fatal weapon of imperialism, and you young people must do everything to know how to distinguish the true from the false. We will continue to dismantle the lies of the imperialist media, which always tries to create problems in Africa.
Dans nos administrations, il y a beaucoup d'incompétence. Reconnaissons-le. Les incompétents,
Because these media, through their mouths, can make you a king tomorrow. Through their mouths, they can make you leave your position as king and become a poor slave the next day. Be careful. I was following a program, unfortunately not long ago, Burkinabe, where a young journalist came out with a sentence that left me a little perplexed. He was talking about North Korea, and the journalist said, but he dies of it in North Korea.
ils n'aiment pas ceux qui innovent, ceux qui cherchent. Les incompétents sont dangereux. Lorsque vous êtes
Did he take the
éclairé,
trouble to go to North Korea to investigate, to really see if he dies of the idea that the imperialist media sold of North Korea? North Korea is more developed than many European countries, and because these media tell us North Korea is a dictatorship, people are starving, they are poor, they have nothing, we take that. But North Korea is a nuclear power. How did they do
cherchez
it?
la connaissance. Cherchez la connaissance et travaillez. Travaillez dur pour être compétent. Bannissez l'incompétence.
Let's be careful with communication.
Parce que
We must not blindly follow these lying media who only seek to divide Africa. It is logical, they fight for the interests of their people, and the interest of their people is that Africa is divided.
exemple, les réseaux sociaux sont les lieux de publication des informations aujourd'hui. Les gens s'informent.
So, youth of Burkina, youth of Africa, we must unite.
Ceux qui publient
We must banish cowardice.
les réseaux sociaux.
We must banish incompetence. We must banish treason and all the vices in our societies. We have opportunities to talk to each other. We give thanks to God for these opportunities that we have each time to talk to each other and raise awareness. I invite you to go back, read again, and get to work so that the Africa that we want to be self-sufficient in food is a reality, so that the Africa that we want for harmonious development is a reality.
Justement, comme disait le jeune slammer, et nous on nous appelle.
Because I come back to your theme, there is no peace and security without development. The two go hand in hand.
Si c'est ça la démocratie, je répète, nous ne voulons pas de cette démocratie.
If there is no development, there is no security, because if there is no development, the youth will inevitably end up in violence.
À savoir quelle est la signification du mot démocratie en réalité. Il s'accroche juste à la définition que lui a donnée l'impérialisme.
There will be no security.
Il se met
If there is no security, there is no development. So, the two must go hand in hand.
l'incompétence. Il faut chercher à connaître, avoir la connaissance, regarder le monde pour redéfinir la démocratie telle que nous le voulons en Afrique.
Let's integrate this into our fights so that we can fight and develop.
Les incompétences
Let's go towards
cachent derrière
production.
la liberté.
Let's produce enough. Let's transform our raw materials on site so that it is beneficial for our populations and desirable to export.
C'est un fait. Vous pensez vraiment que chacun est libre?
I wish you very good days of reflection on the chosen theme, also on the essential role of youth in this fight. Good luck to all.
Parce que si vous ne respectez
May
pas
God
les
ensure that all those who made the trip return home in good health and that we can meet again when we wish, by the grace of God.
de parler comme vous voulez, l'autre aussi est libre de vous répondre comme il veut. Ça sera du désordre. Si vous êtes libre de rouler dans la rue et de passer le feu rouge comme vous voulez, l'autre est libre de passer aussi et de vous cogner. Vous comprenez que si la liberté individuelle prend le dessus, nous sommes dans une société de désordre. Voilà pourquoi il y a des règles dans la société. Et les règles, tout le monde doit les respecter. Et là, on parle de liberté collective. Donc,
If you enjoy the content I create on this channel, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to stay updated with future uploads. Your support is greatly appreciated.
ça fait partie aussi de l'incompétence. Parce qu'ils ne cherchent pas à comprendre. Ils s'arrogent les droits que peut-être les États les ont donnés